We would now like to take questions from the audience. We followed the same protocol for Q&A as we followed in the previous session. So for those of you here on site, please raise your hand. For those of you who are connected online, please use the raise hand button function. And just as was the case earlier, we ask that you ask up to two questions at a time. So who has a question? Let us start the Q&A session. We'd like to start with you. Please go ahead with your question. My name is Kikuchi, SMBC Nikko Securities. Thank you so much for this very detailed presentation. We appreciate this straightforward presentation based on numbers. So this was an excellent, very outstanding presentation filled with details and numbers. So thank you so much. My first question is this. With regard to if the NTT law is abolished, what impact do you foresee? That's my first question. We have the new Prime Minister, we have the new President of LDP. I suppose that this can be addressed at the very final Q&A session. But if NTT law were to be abolished or were to be reviewed, we're not sure what the outcome will be, but you talked about 40 billion FTTH improvement, you talked about 40 billion impact on human resources. So what impact do you see if NTT law were abolished? How much improvement can we see on top of these numbers that you have shared with us? If you could share with us with an image, I would really appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Let's show the portfolio. I said there are several perspectives we can deploy in this discussion. First is possible business opportunities. The other is cost reduction. In the case of portfolio, we have the universal service obligation, as you will recall. We have the obligation to offer telephone services whenever we were asked. So we have the telegram. These are legacy business. If we could use Wi-Fi, or correction, if we could use fiber, if we could see the relaxation of these requirements, that would be positive. So by each area, we'll be able to choose the most optimal way to offer connections. And we can complete and we can suspend copper wire-based telephony services, and we're already doing that. And we could add further cost reduction benefits, and we can accelerate this transfer if NTT law were to be reviewed or abolished. One other element. Even now, it's not a major bottleneck for us even right now, but in the field of IOWN, we'll be using fiber to connect with hyperscalers sites. We can have one link connection. They'll want low latency connections. Now we have to have auction for interprefectural connection as well as intraprefectural connection. That's a handicap. But if this regulation could be relaxed, then we don't have to go through electronic processing. We can actually offer direct connections. But of course, it's important that the access be provided to other players as well. So SI network area could actually accelerate. It could actually provide sharing network. That potential could emerge. So that being the case, the numbers that we showed earlier, there's going to be further upside. That is true. I think there is a possibility that if NTT law were to be discussed and changed, then this could represent upside to these numbers. Thank you. Let me add as well. For NTT West, when it comes to universal services, we want to use fiber and broadband if possible. There are areas where we're not yet able to provide that. So if you can offer such connections, inclusive of with other network operators as well, we can do so without making additional investment. If that should be the case, and that's the direction that discussion is heading. But if this could be realized, then this could be a positive for us. Now, what about the universal service obligation? Outside the universal obligation, what about the restrictions on scope of business? If that condition could be lifted, then services which could not be offered by NTT East and West can actually be provided. We can actually contribute toward revitalization of local economies. So using NTT directly, if we could work and deliver these services based on NTT brand directly, then this can actually translate into increased order for us. Furthermore, from the cost side, if the law were to be abolished and if NTT East and West could actually collaborate in free without any restrictions, then that means we'll be able to reduce common costs because we'll be able to unify our operations. But having said that, if entity law were to be abolished, what will be the extra situation? It really depends on how the situation will be handled. But of course, that will be a lot of benefit. But to what extent will the upside? How much upside can we expect? That's very difficult to say. But yes, we can expect significant amount. Okay, one point of interest for you. Right now, well, we terminated SDL, and in 2027 we'll be suspending ISDN, and also we've seen price increase for next. So it's important that we carry out rebalancing. Please take a look at the cost change as a result, which we are doing as a result of rebalancing. And also, when we suspend these services, how are we going to respond to our customers? If we're going to suspend services, to what extent are we going to offer explanations? We need to work on procedures to convince the customers. We also work with consumer agency services, consumer agency people as well. For example, if we're going to suspend telephony services, if too many users were to remain, are we going to send 2 mails to postal? If that doesn't work, can we suspend the services? If that's the case, the migration cost will be quite minimal. However, if we have to we visit our customers on site, and if we do the wireless setting up, and also send people to the customers before we are able to suspend services, that could actually entail a very large amount of migration cost. So, what type of ending are we envisioning for the suspension of these services? And that will have a very significant impact. Okay, thank you for that information. We appreciate it. You talked about NTT East and West and possible combination. The NTT holding company, naturally, you talked about the possibility of unifying and integrating NTT East and West. You mentioned that there could be significant benefits if NTT East and West were combined. But what about the potential scale? So I suppose it depends on to what extent you're able to combine the services. Are we talking about 100 billion, 200 billion impact if the two companies were to be unified? What about infrastructure? And what about personnel side? What about procurement? There are a lot of potential benefits. But in actuality, how much upside do you expect? Well, it's very difficult to pinpoint specific numbers. We really haven't done a very accurate calculation either. But as I mentioned earlier, the head office function could be unified. And also we could expect a certain amount of reduction in the common costs. And also, if area-free type of operations could be pursued, then the call center operations can be concentrated and consolidated in particular location. That's another benefit. And also, with regard to facilities, we'll be able to consolidate facilities, and so that should lead to cost reduction as well. So if we add the potential upside, there could be a lot of upside in terms of cost reduction. Well, what are the numbers are we talking about? It's very difficult to calculation at this point. Okay, thank you very much. My second question is this. What about the potential for price increase going forward? Mr. Shibutani, you mentioned at the outset, that you don't want to give excuse. But actually, it's true that cost is increasing. And cost is increasing. Can you pass on to the customers? I think you should be able to pass on those increasing costs to the customers. But I feel that you're not going to pass on costs until NTT law discussion is completed. But you're already beginning to step up your price increase. So you're already embarking on some price increase. So are you able to pass on all the cost increase upon customers? Do you believe that if you're able to pass on all the cost increase to the customers, how much impact will this have? Well, let me put it this way. If we increase the price by 100 yen, it's simply a multiplication with the number of customers. Okay, so you're talking about electricity cost. Yes, power cost is increasing, and vendor cost is also increasing. So all costs are increasing for you, right? Yes, that is the case. But I think you should be able to pass on those costs to the customers. A lot of players are already passing on their costs to their services. If NTT can pass on all the increasing costs to the customers, how much impact will this have? It's a straightforward calculation. It really is. Okay. In the case of interconnection based on dry copper and the copper-based connection, this is increasing. The demand is becoming smaller, but our cost burden is expanding, although the demand is dwindling. So suppose we have seen maybe 20% to 30% cost increase in offering connections based on copper cable. Now, can we really increase the cost? I think we need to do a bit of a need to do some mental exercise. But if we see cost increase, if we are able to see increase by 100 yen, it's simply a mere calculation. So practically, in reality, how much increase can we realize? We have to do some sort of simulation, but we're not there yet. We have not yet worked out how much cost increase we should address. We have not been able to do that work at this moment. But at the same time, though, we're already doing things that are possible. For example, in the case of telephone directory, we made a bold decision to suspend that, and telephone directory assistance. We announced the suspension, although some people our junior colleagues wanted to continue. But also with regard to billing system, from fiscal 2026, the billing system will be changing, and paper-based invoice will be digitized. If we can fully do this, then the dark blue part will be increasing, and also the printing factories can be cut from the cost. So we have some factories for printing in Kumamoto area, but we can actually consolidate that to certain locations. So we have the discount programs. But last year, NTT East announced the 2-year discount plan would be suspended, and we've already eliminated that. So I think in reality, in certain cases, we have already gone on to price increase. And with regard to old services in the range of 100 mega to 200 mega, we have asked the SDN pricing plans be increased. So we want to start our challenge in areas where we're likely to run into difficult opposition from the consumers. So I think we can start to improve cost efficiency in parallel. Thank you.
それでは次。
I'd like to take the next question. In the middle row, please. Masuno from Nomura Securities. I have 2 questions. The first question is what you verbally explained at the end. Operating profit, 360 billion yen. Until now, your IR material was only a bar chart. So today I was able to see the actual numbers, so it's good. From 290 billion difference, there's a 70 billion yen difference. And what was written here is 110 billion yen increase in profit. So if it's a negative 40 billion yen. But there are various upside elements. So currently when we look at the downside, what's happening right now, on page 19, I believe from last year's first quarter, the Hikari Denwa is declining, and I feel the sense of crisis the most there. And since last year, I did have a discussion that you need to implement measures, and there are various measures that are occurring. So looking at this, the Hikari services, fiber optic services, is going to be an add-on as you see on slide 19, page 19. But looking at this plan, Hikari Denwa is a negative of 600,000. So there's a 250 billion plus alpha. That alpha part, how much is that going to be? And I think that is going to determine the landing number. But this plus alpha part, this fiscal year, the IP phone in reality is going to decline. And considering that, in what scale are you looking at this alpha part and come about with the calculation of 360 billion yen? Okay, from my side first, in the last 2 years, 2027 or 2023, we put our efforts to achieve the numbers and we caused you concern. But post-COVID, 2 years, it was a very tough situation for the regional communications business because the power cost went up alone 50 billion and the call centers was really active, and we have Cross and Nextia. And the COVID pandemic inquiries has rapidly declined, and even just that part in 10 billion yens of a size, the profit just disappeared. And in West, we have the Noto Peninsula natural disaster close to 100 billion yen. 10 billion yen to respond to that. So it's a very tight situation for us for the last 2 years. And as you pointed out, the Hikari Denwa's traffic actually the voice traffic and with the optical fiber decline together alone has declined by 35 billion in the last 2 years, and that was unexpected. So what is the structure look like? With the collaboration of vendors, operators, the Hikari will shift over big log type of ISP, having them selling it. Then it is better. So we have not done that much direct sales, but they are selling the Hikari Denwa on their own. So if Hikari collaboration increases, then Hikari Denwa's income will be there, ARPU. But on the other hand, half of the 335 billion, which is the decline in traffic during the COVID pandemic, there are a lot of telephone conferences that were held. But post-COVID, that suddenly disappeared. So the last 2 years was really difficult. But that decline in traffic has stopped. So traffic decline and electricity costs going up and the call centers, the special demand suddenly disappearing, that all has disappeared in the last 2 years. So the negative elements have been sorted out and we have come back to the normal status. So how much can we improve from here? And this plus alpha part, in a way, as explained before, the optical fiber service towards that, the BSA people, if it's the Hikari Danwa next, if they shift over there, maximum it will be 6,500 yen ARPU. So how can we have our customers shift to the next services and have a service transfer and migrate to a higher fee service is the key. So with NTT East and West company-wide basis, we are working on this. So we are starting to feel the positive effect of these measures now. So if that is the case, as I have asked previously, there's 40 billion negative elements there, and with that you have 360 billion. But looking just at this is minus 100 billion. So plus 60 billion is what you're expecting. Is that the correct understanding? And not just here, but the remaining part will be revising or reviewing the prices. So we are looking at whether we can implement other measures. And for the copper line, we have the lease line. We have still remaining of these leased lines, and the having them shift to the I1, which is the faster service. We're working on that transition as well. And with this, we have parts we can further boost up moving forward. Thank you. My second question is the timeline regarding what you have just shared. So this is up by 2027, FY 2027. So the annual plan, the unprofitable business, you have an annual plan, but for the other areas, you're saying 3 years from now. So moving forward in the next 3 years, of course, as you go to the latter years, there's going to be more weight on the latter years. So 30 several billion yen size is going to happen 2 years from now. And at the very end, it's going to be 360 billion. Is that how it's going to work? With regional telecommunications, I think you manage your business in 2 year spans. But if it's more further in the future, what are you going to do? How are you looking at this? Well, as I explained this time, in the cost reduction perspective, the signature item is DX and AI utilization and change the operation. And the visual in 2026, we are thinking that that is going to start to come into effect. And so the actual cost reduction, we will start to see the positive impact of that, these initiatives. So the large part will start to show in FY 2027. But till that point, of course, we are going to look for the improvement of efficiency in the operations, and what we can do ahead of plan, we will do that. And in 2027, we're going to aim for a V-shaped recovery. So we will see the larger positive numbers in from 2027. So I just want to check, it's not written here. So from FY 2028 onwards, you will see these positive benefits in full scale, and that is going to continue from that year. regarding FY 2028 onwards, the positive impact will continue. So we would like to continue our thorough efforts. Okay, thank you very much.
それでは次のご質問をお受けしたいと思います。
Thank you.
では、
Next question, please. Tsaka from Morgan Stanley. With regard to fixed line broadband market, is there really demand for this service? I'm afraid I'm a bit skeptical as to whether that there's demand for broadband fiber. Young people don't want broadband, fixed line broadband services, and the demographics are trending toward that. So I have a feeling that there's no demand to begin with. That's my concern. And of course, there might have been some certain amount of demand up until now, and maybe very small community use that, but it could be that going forward, not all people are going to be viewing video contents. So you have to wonder if there's really demand out there for this type of service. Is there really demand? So that's my first question. Do you really see a concrete demand? Now you have a plan this time, and this is on page 22. You talk about FTTH upside 40 billion. That's the plan you have. And I think there's a risk. You're in your plan for FTTH, I believe. So can you talk about that? So how do you see your fixed line broadband services? You are still treating this as the main part of your product line, and I apologize for this question. But is there really demand for the service to begin with? And as the population, even if the demographics are changing, do you still see demand for that? Okay, thank you for your question. Let's show you this particular page. I think there are two major drivers. One, yes, this is the share, yes. By 2027, the number of households will continue to increase. So the households will continue to be the driver behind this demand. So at least this will continue into the future. One other point, as you see on this page, as mentioned by Mr. Kinamura earlier, we're very aggressively marketing Hikari. We focus primarily on partners. So we're not very aggressively marketing against our partners. And that has led to a significant drop in the market share. The 10 giga fiber Hikari course, this has a lot of demand. Many customers really want to hire ARPU plans, but we're not addressing that. But we began to address that. And now market share is improving. It's improved by 120% year-on-year improvement vis-a-vis the previous year. Also, customers who are satisfied with mobile, they said that 5G was fine, but then they found that they want to view Netflix, they want to see Amazon Prime, so their taste is changing. So even if they are in these apartment buildings, they want high-speed Wi-Fi. So we're trying to respond to those needs. So that is why we're offering apartment-wide services. So we will work with developers. As we work with developers, we can actually cover 1,000 new buildings. And also Wi-Fi, they can see Wi-Fi inside, and this can be covered in the monthly rental of 300 yen. So they pay that as a monthly rent, and they can actually have access to Netflix and other services. So that demand is out there. Even in leased buildings, there are such demands out there. So that is why we are able to address that by offering services for apartment-wide building. So as a result, we've been able to make recovery in the market share because we're offering services to apartment-wide setting. So again, we want to increase this by 1.7-fold, and we believe that there's potential to increase this even further. We can go even further. I think nationwide we can maybe cover maybe 30 million even. So we want to go after that demand. So people who are satisfied with the mobile, they're willing to pay additional 300 yen per month to have access to those services. Okay, so you're saying the revenue is down? No, I think we can, from the owners, we're able to receive more than 1,000 yen. So what are we doing right now in the case of leased apartment buildings? If we have one individual, that is, we do a splitter construction and offer access for it. But There's many which entails coverage for the apartment buildings, but under 1,000 yen. But as we cover all the whole apartment building, the ARPU will improve. So we don't have to work with each individual owner. We can work with players like Daiwa House and Daito Kenta construction companies. If we work with such developers, all the apartment buildings can shift all at once. So we have totally changed our way in terms of approaching the condo market. Okay, thank you. I want to ask about the revenue how do you see the revenue for end-of-life services? NTT IR has to maintain certain services. And this relates to your price increase possibility. I think you have 80 million, right? Subscribers. You have an enormous amount of subscribers. Yeah. And these customers are probably part of the bundled contract. And consumer to consumers, the very few people are using telephone numbers that start with fixed. But certain roles are still surviving, even though the role is over. So certain services are still being continued, even though their role is over. Now there are certain services that are ending based on natural attrition. That's fine. So in terms of when you review overall pricing, it simply does not happen because you're not able to maintain quality, and I think your cost reduction efforts would not be sufficient to cover these problems. So if you're able to review pricing, and I think on Friday there was talk about increasing flats, but I think there's a very high hurdle you have to overcome if you want to review your basic charges, right? Also, when it comes to wholesale fiber collaboration projects. So to what extent are you able to reduce your costs based on your own intention? And what extent are you able to not change prices unless you have sufficient negotiations with the government? You take 100 yen. That's a very straightforward calculation, but I'm sure it's not that straightforward, right? So can you talk about how you see the ability to increase prices? Okay, I take your point. For example, in the case of subscriber telephony services, it's true that there's a lot of impact in the community if we change anything about the service. And right now we're in the midst of the universal service obligation. So this is an area where we are able to freely change the price. I mean, in terms of the mechanism, we can change prices, but can we really do that? I think we need to talk and consult with various people before we can actually embark on price increase for such services. As far as the level of the potential increase is concerned, we have to really be careful. Because under the universal service obligation, we are suffering from tens of billions of yen of deficit. We want to be able to cover that deficit through price increase, but that's unrealistic. So I think we need to talk with experts, and also we need to talk with competent agencies. We need to consult before we can embark on price changes. So that is true. In the case of subscriber telephony services, with regard to potential price increase, we have not made a decision. We are carrying a consideration in the study, but it's one that we need to talk with various parties before we actually embark on this. Now, what about the wholesale pricing? When it comes to wholesale, this is something that could essentially decide between ourselves and between the club and the partners who are providing these collaboration services. Now, in the past, there was some slight increase in interconnection charges for fiber. We would like even higher charges. But then, on the other hand, we are actually competing with various players through our partners in the Hikari Collaboration Project. So should we really increase our interconnection with our partners? Because that could actually undermine the competitiveness and our market share could be coming down. So that's a very difficult situation to adjust to. So again, we need to consult with our collaboration partners when it comes to a wholesale collaboration model. So just because we're suffering, we cannot turn to our partners and ask them to accept a price increase. With regard to Hikari Collaboration Project, I think the negotiations are not to increase your prices, but for coming down your interconnection charges, right? Yes, that's the case. Yes, we've actually lowered prices on 3 separate occasions. Is it because of price competitiveness? Who made the decision to lower interconnection charges for wholesale fiber? Well, by lowering fiber, we felt that the sales on the part of collaboration partners would increase. So that's why we made the decision to agree to the price reduction. Thank you. Understand.
たいと思います。
We'd like to take the next question. The person in the front row, please. Tokunawa from Daiwa Securities. I have two questions. The first is regarding the apartment-wide initiative. The large-scale operators, small-scale operators, I think, are involved in this area. So within that given situation, I would like to review this with this apartment-wide, building-wide services. How is it priced? And are you using other operators and having a collaboration, or you change the direction and your company on your own are conducting sales activities and being involved as a player? I would like to ask about this apartment condominium market initiatives. And that sense, well, 300 yen is maybe an exaggeration, but how much common expenses are taken, it depends on the owner, so it will be a slightly higher priced menu. There are 2 points here. The first is that the apartments that have 30 units or lower, and there are large apartment condominiums that are over 100 units. So depending on the size, we review the price, and there are ones that have a flat rate. So we have various plans prepared, and to get in discussion with the customer, we have them selected. And this part, in a way, with the headquarters of this company, we're saying, why don't you apply this to all of your apartment and condominium buildings? So it is going to be a negotiation sales. So our people are going to do the sales activities, and we're increasing the number of the companies that we can approach and have a collaboration with. So we are actually being active in this area. Any cannibalization? No. It's not that they sell it through their shops or anything, so there's not such thing. But the other optical fiber service provider areas, we will do it as a whole. We do the whole thing. Okay, thank you very much. The next questions relating on page 22 regarding the profit. You'll have increase in profit trend, and there's about 3 years left. So I want to know the increase and decrease. For example, FY 2027 increase in profit towards that, and FY 2026 there's a lot of system investment, so we need to be careful. Or due to the increase of Hikari Cross, I think that there may be an increase of a capex, so there may be a depreciation cost this much. So I'm sure various situations occurs, but I would like to know ups and downs. There will be differences regarding that between East and West. But as I mentioned before, for the optical fiber, if the users stop, then the profit will increase. And also, regarding the improving the efficiency of the whole operation, we will see that through the DX efforts. So as we get closer to the latter part towards 2027, we will see the effects showing larger. And towards this, there are measures, expenses that need to be built up for 24, 25. So we like this, but I don't want to have that much of ups and downs. However, if something happens like the COVID pandemic, we won't know. But up to now in the market, if the electricity cost is not going to change that much, then regarding the initiatives that we will be implementing, it will be a bit second half or latter part heavy, right? That is the same for NTT West as well. The latter part is going to be a more weight in a way. From FY25 onwards, it is going to be a turnaround plan. So it's not going to go downward. So I hope you will understand that it will go up like this. And regarding the system expenses, this part, it is a challenging thing for us. But to take on this challenge on our own, we would like to develop the system and also use off-the-shelf type of products so that we can lower the development cost. And for Hikari Cross, you mentioned that it will require a lot of investment. However, 1 giga and 10 giga commonly shared equipment is what we are trying to increase to implement. Therefore, we would like to utilize the renewed equipment as well. And so including Hikari Cross, the existing capex or investment towards existing facilities, we would like to make it to turn into a profit as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. So sorry, the capex is going to be lower than the current level. It's going to be cut down, and for the existing, so be within the existing business, yes, we will keep it down, and the network, we will upgrade it to the next generation ION. We believe we will be able to do that with this level. As explained before, the existing network is at the timing of the renewal or update. So we are thinking that we'll be able to do all this with the next stage of the update. Okay, I'm now relieved. Very sorry, but it is close to the ending time. So the next question will be the last question.
挙手、あるいは
If you have any questions, please raise your hand or push the raise hand button. Thank you.
皆様よろしい
If not, then we'd like to conclude the session at this time. Thank you for your interest and thank you for participation. Thank you very much.